Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video, but we're going to talk about the comic book industry, and something strange is happening. It feels like the comic book industry is starting to wake up. We've been in this weird place for the last 5 or 6 years now in the mainstream industry in particular, where they wanted to stick their heads in the sand and pretend that everything was fine. And we're seeing with the declining sales and shops being shut down and publishers being shut down and creators not being able to pay their bills, that things are not fine in mainstream comics. And some of the few people that are doing well are calling it out and calling for solutions. Rob Liefeld has been one of them. Mark Millar famously said just a couple months ago that he thinks that the comic book industry needs to bring in the big guns. They need to do a major course correction and bring in like top talent to work on books again and just kind of reset the industry. Even if it's just for a couple of years, just to put it on the right path, because it's obviously not on the right path. And, I got to wonder myself if this is even possible, because companies like Disney and Warner Brothers, they clearly don't care about comic books. They care about the properties. Now, I don't even know if they're going to care about the properties that much, because the movies aren't doing as well as they used to. So I have to wonder how much longer these companies are going to exist as publishers, and whether or not, Disney will do, especially Disney, they will do with Marvel like they've done with everything else, every other comic book license they've ever had, and just, job it out to somebody who wants to take a chance on making comic books in this market, right? Because it's not worth it to Disney, and they got bigger things to worry about. They've got way bigger things to worry about. Same with Warner Brothers. Like, they're looking at losing everything if they don't get it together here pretty soon. But Mark Millar put out that they basically need all hands on deck, and they need to pay these people well, bring guys in like Todd McFarlane and Frank Miller, and the all-time great comic book creators. Maybe not content-wise, because a lot of people are going to argue about that. They're going to be like, hey, Frank Miller's not as good as he used to be. Todd McFarlane was always overrated. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, we know. They sold books. Rob Liefeld, you can think about Rob Liefeld, whatever you want to think about Rob Liefeld, but he sold books. He sells books. He still sells books. So it doesn't matter if he can draw feet or not. It doesn't really matter if he can draw feet. He can draw dollar bills for the companies that he does work for. And so he's got his own podcast, Robservations. And apparently he's saying that DC Comics is looking at doing an ultimate reboot. So this is pretty interesting stuff. I need to get him on D-Res. I wonder if I think I could get him on. But I'd love to have Rob on, and actually have Rob and Mark Millar on. That'd be interesting. But this came from Bleeding Cool, which is now covering stationary desks and covering mobile games, because they have to survive, because not enough people care about the comic book industry. Rob says that DC Comics is doing an Ultimate Comics reboot. Rich Johnson wants to get him. I could get Rob before you could, Rich. If I could, I'd hire Rob as a gossip columnist for Bleeding Cool. Anyway, I think hasn't he like trash talked Rob over the years? I thought he has. I feel bad. Like, Rob Liefeld. Look, I'm going to take a little side tangent here. He's actually the reason I got into comics. Like, I was always collecting comics, but I mean, as far as looking at getting into comics and making money at comics and doing my own comics and, doing it professionally, because I saw him on MTV when I was a kid. I know it sounds really hokey, but I'm like, oh, wait, this guy's not much older than I am, and he can make a living doing comic books. Well, geez, I already read comic books like crazy, and I'm okay at drawing. Maybe I can do comics for a living. Then by the time I was actually ready to do it, the industry bottomed out. So womp womp. Anyway, I did break in years later. Actually, when I swore I wasn't going to do comics, I broke into comics, and then I realized, like, oh my God, the current industry is such a shit show. I don't want to be part of it. And now I'm doing comics again, but we're doing them on our own terms. A long story. Anyway, let's talk about this. Liefeld hints at a DC Comics Ultimate reboot via his Robservations podcast. Marvel plans a fresh X-Men rebrand post-Krakoa, sparking genuine excitement. Is it really? I don't know. Scott Snyder may be returning to DC Comics for a new reality storyline. Liefeld reveals inside info suggesting changes at both Marvel and DC in 2024. So, are they starting to get a clue? Or are they just desperate? Because what have they got to lose? There's nothing left. You have ground the mainstream comic book industry down to like zero. Like there's no excitement. When a Transformers comic, a licensed Transformers G.I. Joe comic is the book or the book series rather, that's generating the most excitement in mainstream comics, you fucked up somewhere. Because Transformers and G.I. Joe, as much as I have always loved them, they were licensed comics. They were kind of like, oh yeah, if you're reading the X-Men, you're reading Spider-Man, maybe read this Transformers comic and G.I. Joe comic. They always existed, and so, but they were never like the highest selling comics. Now they're like, oh my God, Skybound's Transformers comics, like the best thing out there. Really? It shouldn't be. It should be the X-Men or Superman or something, right? Not freaking Transformers. And I love Transformers, but like seriously, that's how bad things are. When Transformers is the best comic out there, that's how bad things are. He says he would hire Rob Liefeld. No, I'd take Rob before you get him, Rich. I'm just saying. He did say that DC Comics was going to close 5 years ago. Yeah. But in August, he said that Jason Aaron would be the new writer for Ninja Turtles, and he was correct. In his most recent podcast, as well as talking more about Last Blood, he talked about upcoming plans at Marvel and DC in 2024. He said, I think Marvel's got a whole new rebrand, refocus on the X-Men. That's what they are shutting down the Krakoa stuff. The new X-Men stuff will be good enough to warrant some legit excitement. And if any one of those planes legit lands, they're going to have something. Yeah, if they can actually make the X-Men a superhero title again, instead of a weird romance, gay romance book or whatever the hell it's become, just turn it into a superhero book again. That's all. I just want to see proper X-Men acting like themselves, kicking the shit out of robots and aliens and that sort of thing. That's all I want. It's not much to ask for. It really isn't. And maybe some new characters, some good new characters, but we know they're not going to do that because movie rights and yada yada. But still, at least write the X-Men like the X-Men and stop writing Bobby Drake like a twink, because he's not. Even if he's gay, which I don't believe he is. I personally do not believe he is. There's no indication he was. Just saying, he doesn't have to act the way he acts. Just proper Iceman. Thank you. DC is absolutely doing an ultimate reboot. I know the people at the helm. I know the people in charge. A lot of people called. A lot of people are solicited to be part of it. I have mostly spoken to people who didn't choose to go on board. I don't think it's as far along as the Marvel stuff. They have to. Like, they have destroyed DC. I can't believe it. Like, DC was kind of the holdout against all this, gender ideology and political nonsense. And they were kind of holding the line. Haha. And then, they brought that Daniel Cherry III in, and Jim Lee's just like, I don't know what the hell Jim Lee's doing. He's just drawing Batman on napkins in his office or something. I don't know what he's doing. But the company's burning. Every freaking mainline DC comic has become some weird ass romance ship fest. It's all become web comics. It's all become Tumblr comics. So freaking weird. Every other character is gay for no reason. What the hell's going on? You've got Superman's son sexting his boyfriend in a bathtub in Action Comics. What the actual fuck? Tim Drake is now dating his best friend of many years, and both these characters their creators said, hey, these characters are not gay, but now he's dating his best friend. And apparently his best friend can sneak up on him, and Tim Drake just kind of jumps 3 feet in the air. It's like, oh, golly gee, Bernard, you scared me. Golly gee, Williker. What the fuck? Seriously, what the actual fuck is going on, comics? From what I understand, this is is this Rob or is this Rich? It's not a full line reboot, but an ultimate Marvel comparison may be a valid one. So basically a pocket universe, which if it sells really well, will probably supplant the main universe. They'll do some kind of event or something and be like, yeah, we're going to just get rid of whatever universe this is and do another 0 Hour or Crisis or something. Last year, Rich Say reported from New York Comic Con the next stage in their publishing plans to follow the current Dawn of DC initiative, which nobody gives a shit about. It's been compared in gossip to the Marvel Ultimate Universe. May see Scott Snyder come back and some other people, etc., etc. Substack is pretty much dead at this point. Looks like Rob may have heard something similar. Oh, so he's basically saying, hey, Rob, you're getting your scoops from me now. No, actually, I think Rob would know. I think he would know. And look, I think it's, again, if they're course correcting X-Men or trying to, and they're course correcting DC, that means that they're desperate. Basically, it's gotten to a place where they're probably being told to fix this shit or get shut down, because Warner could very easily just outsource all DC Comics to Skybound, which I heard that rumor was that Skybound was actually interested in the DC licensed DC characters, and they're killing it right now with Transformers and G.I. Joe. They could very easily walk into Warner Brothers and be like, hey, you know what? We can do the same thing for your superheroes, and we'll just reset the universe over here, and we'll do it right. And what do you say? You don't have to worry about any of these people anymore. You don't have to worry about them going out in social media and causing all kinds of problems. You don't have to worry about them deciding one day that now Bruce Wayne is flaming gay. He's very flamboyant, just because they can. Like, we will be good custodians of these characters, and we'll bring them back to basics, and we will bring the readership, and the money with us. And they might. I don't know. So this is probably a last-ditch Hail Mary pass to try to save what's left of DC. But again, this isn't too dissimilar from what Mark Miller was saying, that we have to bring in the best of the best to try to fix it. Weirdly enough, apparently Mark Waid has been fired off of Shazam. So whatever. Mark Waid, who said he would rather see the entire comic book industry burn down than have to share it with the Nazis. And apparently they consider guys like Mark Miller and even Rob Liefeld, weirdly enough, to be Nazis now because they're not on board with all the unnecessary, stupid, money-losing changes going on in comics. Imagine that. I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.